Alright, so back to this bit of a, I guess, odd video. Little bit of again, kind of out of the blue, out of context video. Granted, or not out of context, just, kind of out of, not out of pocket, but again, just out of line of what I've typically been recording, at least, recently, right? I guess semi-related to Infinite Fusion, but not really. Again, this is a video I've never really made, or I guess, I've never really touched on this subject, and again, this is just something to where I feel like, it's a decent time to make this video, and again, because with context, right, again, Pokemon X, probably the favorite Pokemon game I've played, and the one I have the oldest save file of, is reaching its 10 years, it's reaching its 10 years, right, it's decade old, what would you call it, a decade old, decade old, I guess, not reunion, just anniversary, right? And my save in that game is also reaching 10 years old, right? With the old Speed Boost Blaziken, if you remember that. Got hopped on that right as soon as it came out. So I had old Greninja, freaking Venusaur, and then the Speed Boost Blaziken. Those three, we just dominated, the entire game with those three. But anyway, besides that point, in case, if that didn't make it obvious or apparent, right, if you haven't known about me, right, I've also been a Pokemon fan for quite some time, right? I got into Pokemon during Heart Gold, right, or at that point, Gen 4. I never played Diamond and Pearl or Platinum, but I got in through Heart Gold. I believe it was 2009, I think that came out, maybe 2010. So I was kind of young at the time, pretty young, preteens, and yeah, obviously I had the typical old traits of, a first Pokemon game. I had the over-leveled starter. I couldn't beat Whitney. Over-leveled Typhlosion. It had, just the bare bones. I'm surprised I managed to actually beat the game. I'd not think I'd be, thinking now, I'd not think I'd be capable at that age of, doing that. But I did. And then Black and White onwards, right? What would you call it? Those games kind of corrected for that. Black and White, Black, White 2. Obviously, X, that's the big one for me. Played Omega Ruby 2, right? Enjoyed that one. Really liked the Delta episodes. I played Sun and then Ultra Sun. Really liked those as well. The big thing, though, is that I haven't played any official mainline games since. That's a lie. I played Let's Go for, at my buddy's house for, 20 minutes because we double battled through the Elite Four and Champion. You could kind of cheese the game that way. And I did play Pokemon Go when it was first popping off. But again, other than that, I haven't played any official mainline games. And the main reason for that, it's not some act of defiance and, the series has gone downhill, I'm not going to stand with it. It's literally just because I don't own a Switch. Again, for me, it's I just haven't, I didn't kind of want to shell out the money for that, right? Because obviously, my parents bought my DS, right? But now however many years later, I'm independent and on my own, and I just don't want to shell out the money for a Switch. Maybe I do at some point, and then catch up on all the games I missed, Sword, Shield, Scarlet Violet, Legends Arceus, Shine and Pearl, the remakes of, Diamond and Pearl, right? But again, who knows? That's kind of my history, and ironically enough, that was about the time when I had gotten into Insurgents, right? I think I got into that around 2018. Again, for reference, I got into Insurgents through Tyranitar, who's a Poke-tuber, I guess, I don't know what you call him. With the big thing being, I got into his channel, hold on. Jesus, there's something in my throat, hold on. Oh, damn, nearly gonna freaking choke and die, but, Big thing for him is that I got into his channels through the randomizers, right, in his playthrough of Sun. So, and I saw him at the time when I was recording in 2018 and opening up to the idea of starting a fan game. I saw that he was playing through Insurgents at the time, so I'm like, well, shit, why not? And that kind of led to, I guess, all of, the Pokemon recordings I've done, right? Typically, again, notably non-mainline fan games. again, Insurgents being the big one. That was from, my first run was from 2018 to 2020, which ended abruptly when I updated the Mac and it could no longer support Insurgents because it's PC. Then I re-downloaded it on my laptop and then began Run 2 and beat the entire main game that summer of 2020 and the entire post game that winter, right? With, again, the big thing there being that was, I guess, the end of Insurgents. From there on out, I didn't really play any more Pokemon games or fan games, right? I kind of held off and didn't assume I'd really get into any others. I mean, simply due to the nature of, like, by that point I was wrapping up college. I didn't know if I'd be able to record after. Insurgents was a pretty big commitment, so it was still, like, kind of unwinding. And then, again, then 2022 rolls around and it was fall of 2022. I had a pretty decent period of time or length of time, right, where I had off. And it was something where I figured, hey, what better time, to start another Pokemon fan game than then. So that was when I started Uranium. And I played through and beat it, I think, in all of like 37, 39 parts. The game wasn't too long. There's no post-game, so it's just the main game, right? But at the same time, right, the big thing with that is it's a non-ROM-hack Pokemon game. And what that brings me to now with Infinite Fusion, right, again, because I started playing that this summer, right, like early, like May, I'd say, of 2023. It's still 2023 now, but... And again, continuing with it in like September of 2023, right? So mainline, I beat the main like game or main story in like about 37, I think, parts, roughly the same time it took Uranium. But the big thing is that there's been a pretty decent sized post game that I've been working on the rest of the time. And again, just the big thing and overall, like thing there, right, is, and my main thing is like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say I don't enjoy it as much or that I think it's bad. Again, I think for me, just the big thing is, well, I can't say I don't enjoy it as much because I don't, but I'm not going to say it's bad. For me, just the big thing is, again, it's just not it's a ROM hack, right? So you're inherently limited with what you can do in that. And again, kind of what I want to tie into is even more so than Civ, right? Probably the only series more than Civ that I've kind of been like dedicated and has that much of an impact on. Again, the big three, right? Civ, Pokemon, and then DDLC, right? The big thing being I kind of already made a video on that, but this one specifically towards Pokemon. Like, I made a video on just recording reflections, right, and stuff like that. I don't remember where I posted it. I think it's in Misk, but this one specifically for Pokemon. But I'd say Pokemon, more than any, was the series that, again, has had the most influence on me, right? It's something to where, as to our series, I've been kind of into the Mario series, right? Never really got into, like, Sonic or Zelda. Those are some two our big ones, or any our, like, series. Got into Civ, right? But again, just the big thing is that Pokemon's always been the one that, is stuck, right? And during that like Gen 4 to Gen 6, like the late DS, 3DS era, mostly 3DS era, but again, during like kind of that era of Pokemon games, it's something to where, again, that was something that had a decent impact. Like, again, I have 180 hours in X, right? Still have that save. But I would always, like, I remember getting into nostalgia. Like, I'd play on the couch in our old house, right? Play on my DS, right? Remember playing like Black and White, and then I'd go out, whenever I'd go out, just, doing stuff, right? Like, in terms of, like, if I had to just, be with like my parents because they were doing something, or, wait for like my brother, right? I'd have my DS and I'd play, Pokemon, right? Again, the big thing is, and I'm not going to try to say like, oh, you were ostracized for playing Pokemon back in middle school, right? Because, again, at the end of the day, like, I wasn't a dude who, like, a lot of my friends were, like, outside of our school, so it wasn't like I was exclusively hanging out with people inside, so it was never really a thing or issue for me. But people are, like, will say that shit. But, again, it's something to where just overall, and I wasn't super insecure about it because, like, in middle school, it's, like, whatever, right? And then in high school, I got into athletics, so, like, I just more important things in my mind. But really the big thing there, and with that, right, is again, the games had a significant impact on my life, and it's something to where I don't think and the magic for me, and kind of where I wanted to tie this all into, is just discovery, right? Discovery, exploration. Very rarely will I say that a game is about that. Granted, right? Like, obviously you have open world games, but the big thing there and with those, right, is that it's like even like going, well, I don't want to say Mario, yeah, because that's not an open world game, right? But it's something where, again, that's something that I feel like I've kind of underappreciated, or I don't want to say is underappreciated, because lots of people enjoy it, but just something I'm going to like acknowledge, right? And again, that's something where I feel like I answer that when I realize, like, okay, why am I not enjoying the ROM hacks as much? Because, I mean, I already know the region, I know the people inside, right? It's not a new story being told, which is really what it comes down to, right? Yeah, that's why Insurgents was, like, I feel like I should have started off with Uranium and then played Insurgents. But, I mean, I did it in the order in which I did, right? And again, that's why, like, I have a list of our fan games. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to start them for quite some time, like, at least, like, a year, if not 2, simply because of the way things are with my work. But, again, it's still kind of, the big thing is I'm eventually, and kind of, I guess what this will lead to is the future, right, for, like, Pokemon in general, right, at least on this, well, I can go over in general, but on this channel, right, is that it's like, it'll end with the Reborn line, right, Reborn, Rejuvenation, Desolation, that line of games, that's where I'm ending it. That'll be kind of the culmination of what I'm doing. Again, I'll play some more smaller, minor fan games first, and I'll kind of end it with that. I'm not going to Nuzlocke it, still, and that's why, for me, Nuzlocking, speedrunning, like, that's not the kind of shit that amuses me, right? Or, that I guess I find entertaining and enjoyment out of. But again, right? The big thing there, though, and with that is, again, just, yeah, for me, it's more about, it still has the same magic and light that it has when I was, I'm 23 right now, right? Like, 23 and a half if we're going by, like, middle school, age standards, right? I was, 10, 11 when I got my first game? It has the same magic now that it did then, except this time I now know how to actually fucking play the game, but, again, it's something to where that it's still, and it's a series I'll probably, even if I'll always act, like, whether it's a fan game or, again, if I get back into the mainline games, I'll always be, like, involved with some form of Pokemon media, right? Again, just the big thing there, though, is, like, it'll just be something I'll always be doing and appreciating until I die, right? Like, I hate to say it, that's what it's going to come down to, because I don't think it's I'm pretty sure, is it the biggest game series? I don't know if it's the biggest video game series. It's definitely up there. So I don't think it's going away anytime soon, despite, what some people may say. It's like, again, at the end of the day, a lot of the people who are, like, I guess, overtly critical, right, are also the people who are kind of, just naturally falling off the fan base, kind of like all the Gen 1ers. Like, you don't hear from the Gen 1ers anymore, right, because they're no longer involved, right, they don't play. DS era, best era, right, if you didn't play the DS, you had no childhood. All the, like, younger millennial, older Gen Z types, they'll eventually fall off, right? Something to where, again, just like those older millennials did back with the Gen 1 days. But, in a Gen Z, younger Gen Z, right? They're being, well, I guess that they would be more raised on, like, that, late 3DS, early Switch era. But again, now we even have, like, Gen Alpha coming in the mix. So it's a game series and franchise that spans and transcends generations. And it brings that same, for as much as people want to say, oh, this current generation sucks, last generation was good, right? Or new gen bad, old gen good, right? It's something to where, it's just going to keep passing down the mantle, right? It's something to where I think that's like, because even more than, let's say other games, like, even, like, okay, Mario might be an exception, but, like, let's say, like, Sonic or Zelda, it's not that same, like, generational transcendence that you see with Pokemon, right? Mario probably, right? But again, it's just something where I just want to make this video. It's kind of almost like an appreciation video, but it's really just kind of, I guess, acknowledging this series as a whole, what it means to me, again, how I came here, where it's going to go in the future, and just, again, now that I'm taking a break from Infinite Fusion and it's going to be my last fan game for a while, I feel like this video is worth it, because once I'm done with the Infinite Fusion, right, I'll make however many black screen videos on the game itself. But again, I still have this last bit to like push through that I'm going to hold off on until probably at least next year, 2024. But again, with that, I don't really have anything else to say for this one. So, yep, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.